Good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Francisco Rubalcava Jr. How you doing today?
Good. Good morning.
A lot of information out there, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there in the world, right? And that's the thing. 50% of the people are going this way, another 50% this way, and so you have no idea what's going on. Right? If you look at the numbers right now, a lot of people are hurting. I don't know if you have questions, but I know we talked beforehand, but they were saying that back in January, there was $600 billion that was available because of the pandemic and people had savings. And as of end of August, almost all of it was gone. And by the end of September, it would be fully gone. And I'm seeing that. And then in October, you have all these people who have to start paying their student loans on top of that. So those two things alone is really what's going to change the market to where people are really hurting. And people are already hurting. Look at our industry. 75,000 of them got out already. And other companies have been laying off. You look at Better Homes and Garden, that whichever it goes, Better Mortgage. They went from 950 people down to 100 people in the last 2 quarters.
Yeah. No, we have been seeing, I mean, you look at like the gas prices right now and everything, it's ridiculous.
Dude, almost $7. It cost me $170 to fill up my truck, on diesel. And all this is, like I said, this is all self-inflicted. All this because you have they want these prices this high so that we go solar and we do this other stuff. They can't sell the green deal unless these prices are through the roof. And our biggest issue, and I keep saying this, is our government. They keep spending. Do you know how much money we sent over to Ukraine?
How much has it been like to now?
Yeah, the amount of money that we've given them because of the war and everything else. And I'm just saying this government, the current administration. Just guess.
$2 billion.
$100 billion.
Yeah, no, that's like,
you know what we could have done with that in the United States?
We wouldn't have been where we are right now. That's like, and I mean, and again,
that's a lot of money.
That's a no, that's a lot of money. And again, I mean, not even trying to, again, it's like a thin line, to walk or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, I had seen a statement about this earlier, right? And it's like you think of it as like a father, right? And someone else comes along that, has an issue, and, can you help them? But how do you help them without helping you and yours first, right? Like that's ultimately the way that we have to look at it. Like this is our country, right? Like we have to focus on ourselves as much as possible.
You sound like Trump.
No, I mean,
finally Hispanics are waking up, and I don't mean that negatively. That's just that in California, if the Hispanic people came out to vote, it wouldn't matter what the rest of us did.
Yeah. That's the difficulty too, is that there's the fear, or not even a fear, but it's just, it's a weirdness. Cause even like with my family and stuff, when it comes to voting, it's weird. Right. Because again, and I've always said this to my parents too, the Mexican media, the Hispanic media, the Hispanic TV stations, things like that. They do a great job at swinging the other way. Right. And really trying to have things be one way. And that's why, I don't listen to the media. Because it's all, I mean, you and I have even said it, it's not even about looking one way or the other. It's about what we really feel would be right and create a stronger country financially. Like at the end of the day, I always say, I don't care who's in office as long as finances are good. At the end of the day, everything else doesn't matter that much. Nothing affects us as humans living in this country more than our finances. That's the most important piece. And and that's a crazy, ridiculous number. And
you're talking about the 100 billion.
It's ridiculous.
I don't think people realize how much money we gave them, because there was like, oh, we have an extra 12 billion here. Let's send it over. Oh, we sent another 20 billion. We don't know why.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but back to your statement about, I always tell people, all right, so you can't look at parties these days, because the Democratic Party is not the same Democratic Party of the 50s. That's more the Republican Party. But my grandfather told me, always vote your pocketbook.
Yeah.
And if you vote your pocketbook, we'll always do well. The problem is, when Clinton was in, he tried to do a lot of the stuff in the first 2 years of his administration. He lost a lot, and he was like, okay, I got to start working with people. This administration isn't that way. And that's the difference. They're like, they don't care. And that's a problem. It's almost like they care more about the world than they care about us. Look at our roads. Look at the homeless. They spent, you know how much they spent in California on the homeless initiative?
How much is that?
$20 billion in the last couple of years. And look, it's gotten worse.
Yeah. Well, it's like the wrong approaches too. I mean, it's even, even when we look at the housing problem, like I always tell my clients, it is, if you absolutely need it, it is great to always take advantage of those first time buyer, like, down payment assistance programs. At the end of the day, though, they're also getting their share from it. Right. So there's like that part of it where I feel it benefits the government all in all.
All right. They want the votes,
and it's the same as like someone coming out and saying, we're going to pay for your tuition, like it's not the right approach. Long term, long term for things to get better. It's like I've, ever since you made that statement of, we should be giving more money to builders rather than, the buyers, because it only helps one individual. But if we give the builders, it can help a bigger scale of people, because that's our biggest problem. Our biggest problem isn't first time buyers getting into houses, because at the end of the day, still most people can at least, within a few years save up anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000, right? That's ultimately what can be done. But again, one of our biggest problems in this country with credit and everything is overspending. And what happened when all that stimulus came, we, overspent, to people living beyond their means. I mean, it's a simple economics. Like, what caused the Great Depression? People living beyond their means. And that's what we run into. But then on top of it, we're running into the problems of our money not being spent wisely, where, these builders, for example, like I said, I mean, we think it's great when we hear new builds coming out around us at the high 400s. Like, that sounds awesome. When
are there any?
Even that's what I'm saying. I think there may be some coming soon.
Yeah, but they're only 800 square feet.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, or like even like Riverbank, where they started coming out with like those half plexes. Those half plexes, man, half plexes being at like 350 to the low 400s.
Right.
That's crazy. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, where a new build, or let's just say like even in Patterson, I remember a new build in Patterson, like a 1,500 square foot home, was like $300,000, $320,000.
But values went up because of the pandemic and the other issues. We don't have enough inventory. We are lacking inventory so greatly. So what you were talking about, by helping the builders. But see, the problem is people think that when, even right now, where they like tax the corporations, because that's where but that taxing the corporation hurts the little guy, hurts everybody, because now that tax is it, and part of the cost of that, they have to pass it on. The problem isn't taxes. The problem isn't revenue. The problem is the spending that both California government and the United States government is doing. They're just spending so much money, and because they had control of the House, the Senate, everything, and they're like, let's just spend. And the problem is they're spending our money, because it's tax money, the way they want to spend it, but not the way that the people of the country who pay it want it spent.
Yeah. No, that's the biggest thing too, is, we're
going to get on a whole talk radio show about, but it's important to understand that these problems that we're having right now are self-inflicted. Two things: people voted these people in, and that's what you got, because you didn't like a gold or orange haired guy who was mean tweeting. But he had fixed the whole country amazing. Yes, there were still issues, but gasoline was cheap. We were not dependent on anybody for oil. None of that kind of stuff. It got rid of a ton of EPA regulations, a bunch of stuff. But just because the status quo was like, if this keeps going, they're going to do term limits next. We got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah. No, the other day I saw this. It was like, I guess this guy was talking about, he went to Rome, right? Because like Rome reigned forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it fell. Mm-hmm. But like,
and Aztecs did too.
Yeah. And I mean, even like,
but there was Spaniards. That was different though. But anyway.
No, but even like, this guy was talking about, he was in Rome. He was with a tour guide, and the tour guide said there were 2 reasons that Rome fell. And the first reason was too much involvement with the government, was the first, which is like where we see, I mean,
the government got too big.
Yeah. And and it was just their involvement with their finances.
Yeah, they
It was
tax
that.
everybody.
It was that, and also, you know, those were the kinds of causes that eventually led to it. Just that much involvement, and we try to like see, and we're seeing it. We see it happen right in front of us, but still, again, like you said, we are the ones that vote these people in. And again, that's why it's like I've always said, you know, and I've even like coached my parents out of it, but it was essentially, you know, people are like more worried about feelings than what happens in like what genuinely matters, which is the finances. At the end of the day, it is the most important thing. It's what drives this country.
Right.
And, you know, that's why we're able to do the things that we can do here, and we have our set freedoms. But, you know, again, people just overspend.
Well, the problem is people think that a nice guy is the right person, but the nice guys are the ones who normally screw you, and because they can talk really well, and then next thing you know, they've taken everything from you. When you have somebody who's a mean guy, you know who he is from the beginning. He doesn't lie who he is. You know exactly what you got. And the world doesn't want us to have a mean guy, because then they actually have to do what we want instead of us having to do what they want. We've never paid for prisoners that were captured, right? Our, you know, we never did a prisoner swap with cash. We would never do that. We just did. Now we're setting a whole precedent going forward that if you take a few Americans and we'll give you $6 billion, or we'll give you back your money. That's a problem. That is a weak administration. And that's from a Navy guy who was a corpsman, who was in the service. And I'm just saying that what we're setting up and doing is making it worse. It's not. I know everybody wants to think that we're going to be Star Trek, and next thing you know, we'll all get along, and next thing you know, we'll go leave whatever, the whole thing. It's not going to happen for a long time. Just like this green energy stuff's not going to happen. We don't have enough transformers. We don't have enough anything to do it right now, but they're shoving it down our throats. So we did this with the Obama administration. The Solyndra companies that were over in San Jose went bankrupt afterwards because they wasted all the money and spent it on other stuff. There's just so much corruption out there with money, and we need to stop it. You got me on my soapbox, dude.
No, it's a conversation that, again, I mean,
I just wish you need to work on Hispanics coming out to vote. I'm telling you, because they can't say that how do they feel now better, you know, in another year when we vote November next year, are they going to feel better than they were now 4 years ago? Or are they going to feel just as bad as they feel now? You know, and that's how you look at it.
No, I mean, even like with like my dad, right? Like, or a lot of my family, like they're all, you know, hard labor, stuff like that. And my dad busts his ass off, man. Like he works day and nights, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he does, he goes to the construction sites and he sweeps, you know, does street sweeping all throughout those. And I mean, he started that business back in 2016, and it's like, you know, you got so much involvement, like union fees, things like this and that, you know what I'm saying? It's so expensive. And again, you think of like, when everyone says tax the rich, you know, the people that are getting affected are people like my dad more than anything. The rich, that doesn't hurt them.
No, because they have accountants and attorneys and everybody, and they know the loopholes. Just like Trump said when he was on the stage, and Hillary Clinton's like, "You don't pay taxes." He's like, "But you put that in place because you've been in here for 30 years. If you and all the people who donate to you for your campaign and everything take advantage of the same loopholes I do."
Yeah.
And you put them there for those people to donate money to you. So don't get on me because I use them.
Yeah, it gets on I mean, at the end of and that's, again, like you said, being straightforward. And he exactly highlighted how it's, you know, there's a difference between the rich and the elite, right? Like, there's a whole difference. And when people say tax the rich, you're not hitting those people. You're hitting the small business owners. You're hitting the people that are trying to live a better life than paycheck to paycheck, which is disgusting, because at the end of the day, the choice that, like, for example, my father took to provide a better life for us, right, and help him out, it's not like it went unpaid for. It's not like he's sitting on his ass. Like he's going out there and he's working, but at the same time, it's like, it's hard to run a business because of that, because you have to deal with so many of those things. So how does the normal person ever reach that type of lifestyle? You know,
they don't want you to.
Yeah.
The current, and this is, again, I'm not getting super political, I'm getting a little bit, but when the government's involved in some of these governments that get into place, the whole purpose of that government is to get you stuck on them so that you work and pay them so they can do whatever they want with your money. And the problem with what you just said, we just need to go to a flat tax, 10% flat tax. Don't care how much you make, you pay 10%. And if there is other countries that, I think it's Sweden or one of those, that whoever uses the most services are taxed the most.
Yeah.
So the poor are taxed the most because they use all the services. So if they bring in, they're taxed at like 30 to 40% because they use all the government services. And as you don't use the services, you're not taxed as much. And that's the way it should be. If I don't use any of the services, why should you take my money? And some people go, well, that's just how you should do it. No, I'm working my ass off to make a living. And you got the meal tax and all this other bullshit taxes that they want to pay for things that has nothing to do with what I need. And it doesn't help me at all. It's supposed to help the city, but you look at the streets and look at everything, and I don't have an idea what that goes for. But they sure want to come after you when you don't pay it.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, stop bitching. The bottom line is it's go buy a house. No, what I'm saying is, please, everybody needs to get out and vote. This problem with Stanislaus County, last election, we were 58% of the registered voters came out. That's the problem. Everybody thinks my vote doesn't count. But if you don't go out and vote, your vote doesn't count at all. And if you don't go and vote, you're voting for the other person.
Yeah.
Remember that. If you don't vote, you're voting for the other person.
No, it's those are all, and again, these are all things that affect everything that's going on with us right now. These are the challenges that we're facing. And again, I mean, it's favoring the betterness for, to society in general, to have the ability to still put a roof over your head, because there are, again, the multi-billion-dollar companies out there that are buying up places just wanting to rent them. And that's why we keep telling people, buy as soon as you can, because there's companies out there that have this agenda of ultimately creating everybody being a tenant.
Mm-hmm. Pottersville.
Yeah.
If you don't know, It's a Wonderful Life, that's in that movie. Yeah, Mr. Bailey, who's trying to make a good life for everybody. Here's your house. And then you have the Pottersville, who wants everybody in there renting. And that's the difference. So it's happened forever. It's been this way forever. It's just more exacerbated now because of what we've been through, two different times of downturns and increases. I mean, right now, somebody's buying up all that land in Hawaii from all the people who owned the land before that their houses are burnt at. And they're going to do something different with them. But everyone's like, you shouldn't be able to buy it. Well, they shouldn't have sold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope.
What are you going to do? Just be careful out there. Get out and vote next year. But in the meantime, if you need help getting a house, reach out to us. We'll get you qualified. Francisco will take you out shopping.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. And if you need any help at all, please feel free to reach out, 209-493-2400.
And by the way, we offended you, good, because now we want you to do something about it. And what I mean is get out and make some changes in this world. All right. Make it a great day, and we'll talk to you later.